I normally only record on the 18th for this, but I had a couple of things come up, so I decided to go ahead and record just to cover those couple of things. Especially since my last one basically was nothing. I had like no updates really to give. That's changed. Update number one, I have started extra electrolysis. I called around, because there's waiting lists and stuff. And I noticed after that one that there was a new place that I had never seen before. I was like, okay, I'm going to call this place. It's like really close to where I live. And when I called, it was just a voicemail thing. So I left the voicemail. But the next day, she calls back and she's like, hey, you were asking about electrolysis. And I was saying, yes, I was. I am currently getting electrolysis, but I'm on Medicaid and they only do accredited places. And the closest place is significantly far away, all the way in Olympia. I need help because it's been more than a year that I've been getting electrolysis and not even half my arm is done. It's terrifying to me how long it's taking to get to surgery. And so I'm willing to pay out of pocket. I need more electrolysis than what I'm getting. And she says, oh, yeah, I've had a couple of people call about being on Medicaid. It sucks about the accreditation thing. Um, when I said that it had been more than a year that I had been getting electrolysis and not even half my arm was done, she made such a sound in her throat, like a really, like I can't even imitate it because her voice is much higher pitched than mine. But it was not a happy sound. It was a that's bullcrap sound. Um, she after I got done talking and stuff was like, "Listen, I have been doing electrolysis out of the basement of my house, and I just started having a storefront. I've hired two girls who are training, and basically, the area that I live in is kind of wealthier. I am not wealthy, but this area is, and she's struggling to find people to come in and do training with the training people because sometimes you can end up with, bruises or little bumps or whatever. No one wants to be blemished as wealthier people. They don't want to have to do a training person. She said, I need these two girls to be past training and working. So let's do a win-win-win here. They get training, you get electrolysis, I get workers sooner. You don't have to pay anything. Just come to appointments. I was like, what? Like, so yeah, so I've been to one appointment so far. I have another appointment here. So far I'm only working with one of the trainer girls. She said I could work with both of them, and I'm still going to my actual appointments that are for, covered by Medicaid. So hopefully this means that I'll end up with like 3 appointments a week. That would be amazing, but we'll see. I will also say that the training person that I've been working with at the other one, oh, I told her I have part of the reason it's, going so slow is I've been working with a trainer person at the other one for like 8 months. And she was like, oh, yeah, that's not good. So she, um, she was really excited to have me come work with the training people also because I have unicorn hairs. She was like, "Oh, good, that's so rare. That will be good for them." Like everything about it was positive. And I went to the place and they're still like when she said she just opened up a storefront, like she was still decorating. But still, I was just so happy to be there. I was like, "Let me help you move furniture. I am here to be accommodating." I got there early and the girl who did my electrolysis seemed nice enough and all of that, so that's good. And actually did quite a bit of my arm, like significantly more than the other place's training person. I don't know if it's done perfectly or whatever, but I don't really need it to be perfect. I just need more electrolysis so that more of my arm is even getting touched. She actually touched some of the areas that have never ever been touched before on my arm by the electrolysis machines and all of that. So I'm so relieved because there's parts of my arms that have never been electrocuted once. And now that's going to change. It's already changing. So it's a relief. I kept being like, for me to have surgery before the end of the year would require some sort of miracle, and I'm hopeful that this is the miracle. I really, really just want this surgery out of the way, out of my life. I can move on. I can, from that point on, weigh whatever, do, just the other surgeries on schedule, and no more of this torture. The electrocuting itself isn't the torture. Like, yeah, it's not comfortable, but it's just uncomfortable. It's not actually like excruciating because it's on my arm. I'm sure if I was being electrocuted like on my face or genital regions or something like that where it's like super sensitive, it would be more excruciating. But it being on my arm makes it fine. Whatever. It's not comfortable, but it's not terrible. What's really bad is the long tediousness of it and not knowing when is it ever going to stop or end, when can I ever actually get the surgery. it, that's just torture, like mentally grueling every day for me, like every single day. So super relieved about that. The electrolysis, I'm supposed to go later today, and hopefully that goes well because, yeah, I really am just super grateful. I am incredibly grateful, and I mean, if she would have said, "Oh, you're going to be with a training person, but still full price," I would have said yes. So her saying for free, I think she had compassion on my situation because she, she made that sound in her throat, and I could tell she was not thinking that that was okay. It shouldn't be like that. I sometimes worry that the other place that I've been going to for over a year now, that the training person really didn't want me to like get done with electrolysis. Lately, that training person hasn't been doing my electrolysis at all for like the last 2-ish, 3-ish weeks, and it's felt a lot better. I don't know why they're not doing it. It's not because of anything to do with me, but I am relieved. I don't know if they officially have an actual schedule and are working with people now, like as an actual worker, and so don't need to be monitored and stuff like that. Hopefully, that's all it is. And I didn't end up having to work with them. Fine with me, because there was just something off. And she was pretty open about having a crush on me, but it also, I was pretty open about like that not being reciprocatory. But like, I feel like there was just something off. I'm really relieved. Like when I was originally told about electrolysis, they guesstimated 8 months, and then of course I have these stupid unicorn hairs. But even besides that, it it's just not been what was originally estimated at all, and it's really difficult. I mean, originally, I think the very first time that I ever talked to them about it, they said 3 to 8 months, depending on my hair follicles. And not even half my arm is done after a year. So I'm extremely grateful to the woman who owns this new place for being compassionate because I need this so bad. Another thing that has changed is um I now had this money. And I was like, oh goodness, I saved this up and now I can spend it on something for myself. So for the first time in my entire life, I went to get a passport because I thought, well, maybe in the future, I've got one of my professors talking about international conferences and stuff. Maybe I could like go to attend slash speak at conferences, and wouldn't that be amazing? And it's difficult getting a passport, and I wasn't expecting it to be so hard. First of all, my birth certificate was painful to get. It was very difficult for me to get my birth certificate. And my birth certificate, it was, even after all that work, just showing amended. But at least it said the right things in bold above, and the amended is still there, and I can't change that. But at least most people will hopefully not really pay attention to the amended. I don't know. But at least I have a birth certificate that's functional and works, sort of. I don't now, because apparently when you go to get your passport, they take the birth certificate and it's just, you get it back in the mail at some point. And when she said that, I was like, oh God, panic struck my soul. I was I was like, oh my God, what happens if it gets lost in the mail? And she said, oh, there's a number you can call to complain. I was like, that's not gonna help anything. Calling and complaining is not going to do anything. I was like, I this was an extremely difficult thing to get, my birth certificate. And she was just like, okay, and staples it to a bunch of other stuff. And I was like, did you just put a staple through it? And she's like, oh yeah, because it all goes together. That's what has to happen. And her attitude was, what the fuck is wrong with you, kind of an attitude, like, get over it, this is what's happening, deal with it. She was very impatient, but I was like about to cry. I was like, oh my God, what do I do if this birth certificate doesn't come back? I don't even know. I try really hard not to think about it. It's been a couple of days, and I still, as soon as I start thinking about it, feel the fear rising in my chest. Like, this was an expensive and painful ordeal to get that birth certificate, because I didn't actually live in the state of Alaska. If you live in the state of Alaska, you can actually go to the judge and explain yourself and stuff, but I didn't have that option. And my name change documents were from a different state than the state that I live in. My Again, my birth certificate looks crazy anyway because of all the amendments all over it. It is what it is. I can't help that Alaska's, like, systems are terrible for helping people. And man, it just sucks. So I have that fear, but on top of that, there's a whole other problem that I was not expecting at all. When I went to go get my passport, I was expecting that I would need to have information about myself. I brought my social security card. I brought like documents to show that I am who I am. And they wanted to know about my ex spouse and my parents. And I don't know anything about that, like, at all. I thankfully could call my father and ask him about his information. What city was he born in? What year was he born in? What state was he born in? Stuff like that. But I have zero contact with my birth mother. I do not know what year she was born in. I couldn't even begin to guess. Uh, I think she was 18 or 19 when she was pregnant with me, and I could try to guess based off that, but it would be a guess. I have no idea where she was born. Couldn't, you could say my life depended on a guess, and I could not guess. My ex spouse, I know what state she was born in. I'm pretty sure it's the same state as my mother was born in, but again, that is a guess. And that's based off what my father said. but my father doesn't remember anything like that about my birth mother's information. And I don't remember even the year my ex-wife was born in. And I used to write it down. Like I used to have to fill out paperwork for her because she was disabled. And I don't remember. I and they wanted to know the exact day my divorce went through. I've never known that. I have no idea. I've never gotten any paperwork from the courts about it except one paper that I had to sign that said that yeah, this was going to happen. Never received any kind of a receipt or a hey, it's official, nothing like that. I couldn't tell you if my life depended on it. No clue. Not something I remotely know. I don't even know what court system it was done in. She did it because she was like dropping me like a so I just literally have no idea. And I'm like, what do I do if I don't know any of this information? I don't have contact with these people due to like negative abusive reasons that they literally harmed me. And she's like, oh well, it'll basically put like a notice on it that you'll have to respond to why this is blank if they feel that the information must be, you know, resolved in order for them to pass your passport request. And they'll basically give you a chance to fill it in. And I'm like, but I have no contact with these people. I won't be able to fill it in. And she's like, well, then you'll have to tell them that. And then they'll have to decide whether you can have a passport. So basically, I might not ever be able to get a passport depending on information about other people that are not people I know or are part of my life. Like, what happens to kids who were adopted? What happens to people who've come out of domestic violence situations like me? Like, like this is ridiculous to me that this is the system that is in place. This is not a good way to identify that a person is who they say they are by them knowing information about extra people who are external and not actually part of their life. There should be an option for either screw that information, who cares, or else here's more information about you, the person, to verify that you, the person, exist. You know, maybe bank documents or your, I don't know, mail with your address on it that people have been sending mail to you. I don't know, some sort of something. But the other thing is, they didn't care about my social security card, which why couldn't I use that instead of knowing something about my birth mother who like doesn't even live in this country, like does not live in the United States. She lives in a religious colony in the middle of the jungle in Belize. Like she's not here. um or else maybe like have witnesses come from your life. Like what about people who are emancipated? I mean, so many people are no contact at all with their parents or with people that have done bad things to them, and having to know information about those people is not a mentally healthy for them to have to think about and have to feel like that person that they finally got away from still has some sort of constrictions on them, still can mess up their life. That's how I feel. I feel like my the people who I have no contact with can still mess up my life. Despite all the horrible things that have happened to me and all of the painful things that I've gone through because of them, they still get to hurt me. They're still being granted the power to harm me by the freaking government for no reason, no useful reason whatsoever. And B, it's not, it's not, it's not actually useful information. It's not actually helpful information. Like who cares? What does that have to do with me? Where someone was born who isn't me? If you care where I was born, totally makes sense. You want me to verify I am who I am saying I am. Makes sense. But it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. It shouldn't be this difficult. And if I get declined from being able to have a passport, even after explaining myself, I have no idea what I do. And it's not like they give me my, money back. You're just out that hundreds of dollars that I could have used for other things. Like, it's really frustrating. And I do want to travel internationally, and I do want to go to conferences and speak at conferences. Like, that is the future I want for myself. So this needs to be like a resolvable thing, but it is terrible. I hate filling out paperwork so much because even though my name is legally changed, they want to know any other names that I've gone by. Even though my, sex and gender, I've had enough surgery at this point. It is fully just male. They want to know any reasons for a man, like that. It's so irritating. You can't just exist. You can't just move on and be like, screw that part of my life that was totally and completely miserable. You are forced to have it come back up over and over again, even though it's no longer applicable in any way, shape, or form. And it's horrible to fill out paperwork. It really is. But even more than just the horrors of filling out the paperwork, it is horrible that people who have outright been disastrously cruel to me can still harm me because the government wants me to know about them. That sucks so bad. And then to have to go through so many hoops and deal with so much crap to get a document, and then them just take the document and be like, yeah, screw you, you hopefully you'll get it back at some point, weeks from now, possibly months from now, who knows, hopefully you won't need it between now and then, and you're going to get it back with a bunch of holes in it. Like, there's no respect for the human side of things at all. Like, nothing. You're not actually a person. You're just a list of check boxes and filled out numbers. You're not a person. And that sucks. So while I am super grateful about the electrolysis, man, the government and paperwork and hoping for this passport and stuff, it's just so needlessly arduous, so arbitrarily cruel for no reason. I can't imagine what kind of a privilege, what kind of a advantage it must be to be able to go through life and not have to be afraid of this shit, to not have to deal with this kind of crap, to just be able to be like, oh yeah, this is a little like tedious, but that's the worst it is. It's just annoying. There's nothing else to it. Like, I can't even imagine how nice that must be. Like, whoever developed these systems in the first place, that must be how they felt when they made it. Oh, this is not a big deal. I could find this out any day for any reason. Like, this isn't even a problem. I already know this off the top of my head. Like, can you imagine? Maybe you can. Maybe that is your life. But I sure as heck can't. I cannot imagine what it must be like to have such a great relationship with your parents that you know all that information. To have such a great relationship with your ex that all your divorce information is like super happy to think about and to know the information of. And you can just know it off the top of your head, just like that. And even if you didn't, you could just call them and it'd be fine. They could just tell you. Like, it's not a big deal. It's so easy. I can't even imagine what that must feel like. Like, I try to, and it just makes me sick. Like, I feel like vomiting right now. I feel like vomiting. It's nauseating. Some people's lives must be really happy. And I'm sure other things have gone wrong or other things have affected them or been hard, but it's just like inescapable. It feels like no matter what I do in life, no matter how hard I try to move on in life, there are some things that are just inescapable. And it just has to be the things that are the worst. There's probably no one on the face of the planet who has harmed me more than my birth mother. I would love to just say, yeah, she doesn't exist. And she's removed herself so far away that most days I can act that way, but there's always going to be something, isn't there? It just sucks.